Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
A very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's a Friday evening. It's Fire Friday here on ZiFM Sport, and that means it's gonna be a good one. We preview the weekend that is coming, what you can find in front of your TV set, because right now, in the times of Corona, that's where we enjoy sport. And yes, indeed, we certainly enjoy it. And our hope is that you enjoy the show. Those delivering it for you are Mike Madoda, Chris Midzi, Alois Bunjira, Sean Tafirenyika, our producer, and my name is Barry Manandi. On the home front today, low-risk sport codes are excited that they can finally resume activities following government's move to lift some restrictions. However, football stakeholders have nothing to smile about, as the most popular sport in the country still remains banned. We'll hear the thoughts of the ZFM Sport team around that instruction coming out of the SRC. In international sports news, an outstanding 3-try performance by Jonah Nareki saw the Highlanders come from behind to beat the Chiefs 39-23 in their Super Rugby Aotearoa clash in Hamilton this morning. Another big clash beckons this weekend as David Havili and Will Jordan are back for the Crusaders' home opener against the Hurricanes in Christchurch on Sunday.
We'll have more international sports news for you when we take you around the world in 60, starting off in Las Vegas, where Israel Adesanya could make history when he faces Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight championship in the main event of UFC 259. In Atlanta, team captains LeBron James and Kevin Durant have assembled their superstar rosters for the NBA's blockbuster All-Star Game. And in Wellington, Australia has given itself a chance of claiming a comeback T20 series win over New Zealand with a mammoth 50-run win in the fourth T20.
Don't miss out on our play of the day, Fire Friday, Party Friday. We'll get the party started right here on your favorite sports show. Before we kick off the beautiful game in Manchester, Derby time, United, they visit the Etihad, trailing City by 14 points at the top of the table. But before we preview that headline game, we'll look back to last night's action where Thomas Tuchel says he was super happy with Chelsea's 1-0 victory at Liverpool. It's derbies galore in Spain. It's the Madrid derby. Atletico can move 8 points clear of Real by beating their city rivals in a match that could go a long way to deciding La Liga's title race. In Germany, it's Der Klassiker. Borussia Dortmund will take on Bayern Munich, who also have the fixtures out of Serie A, Ligue 1 and the CAF Champions League.
It's time for our power play. Mike, are you a Coming to America fan?
I am, but I've been slightly concerned reading the previews for this one. You know, people seem to have taken a bit of offense. They're not as chuffed as they were several decades ago around the caricature of Africa and African characters. So I will watch it because I'm such a big Eddie Murphy fan. I believe he's one of the most accomplished actors of his generation. And so I will watch it. It's also from a nostalgia perspective as well, because Coming to America 1 was so good.
Yes, indeed. The one that Mike is talking about is Coming to America, the sequel. Here is a track from the original motion picture soundtrack. And of course, you know that it's on Amazon. It's an original Amazon movie. And this track is called I'm a King. It's by Bobby Sessions and Megan Thee Stallion.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Why don't you follow us on social media? We are at ZiFM Sport on all the platforms that you know and love. And also, we're there in our individual capacities at Chris Midzi, at Mike Madoda, at Gazaman14, at Sean Tafirenyika, and I'm out at Barry Manandi. Right, let's get into that story where the SRC made that announcement, but still no football. Low-risk sport codes are excited that they can finally resume activities following the government's move to lift some restrictions. However, football stakeholders have nothing to smile about as the most popular sport in the country still remains banned. A letter from the SRC approved the resumption of 24 sport codes such as cricket, swimming, cycling, chess and tennis, which were classified as low risk. Michael, your thoughts on that announcement?
Well, Barry, just taking a look at the list of sports that were approved, those ones that are deemed to be low risk: archery, aquatics, badminton, angling, athletics, cricket, cycling, chess, equestrian, rowing, drafts, polo cross, golf, shooting, tennis, motorsport, swimming, triathlon, lawn bowls, wood ball, horse racing, and table tennis. You know, the cynic can't help but feel that these are just the elitist sports. These are the elite sport codes. Where is netball? Where is basketball? Where is football? Where is rugby? And that's why questions will be asked. Is it that these national sports associations were ready, or is there something that's happening that's a lot bigger? There's more politicking that's happening behind the scenes that's preventing, say, football from returning.
Could perhaps the argument just be that, those sports that we deemed as high risk, Chris, can't return because they're full contact. There's a chance of higher chance of transmission. And because, as Mike said, Mitambo Yevanu has got lots of people that follow it, that play it, there's a good chance that those groupings of people could increase the risk of infection with COVID-19. That will be the argument, won't it?
That would be the argument, and anyone who poses that argument, you can then ask them the following questions. How many cases per day are we currently encountering in the country? The last I checked, in the last couple of days, the most cases we had was 45. The lowest we've had in the last couple of weeks, it has come down to 14 cases per day. Those sporting codes, in as much as, yes, there are a number of athletes that are involved, one important thing to remember when it comes to decision making around COVID-19 is the fact that it's not going anywhere. It's not going to, even if vaccination takes place, even if we're several years into this COVID pandemic, COVID-19 is not going anywhere, and we are not going to reach an ideal state. Other countries have resumed those specific full contact sport codes. For example, rugby and football. Let's take a look at South Africa. South Africa has resumed all of its sport codes, and they currently have 1,404 cases per day. An average of 1,404 cases per day. Let's go even further. Let's take a look at the UK. There's a much bigger number in terms of athletes that are participating there. They currently have 6,573 cases per day. So for me, the argument that because of COVID-19 and the numbers involved in those sports, we can't resume, we will be waiting till kingdom come if that is the argument.
I like the approach that Chris has taken, Barry, because she's brought in the data, she's brought in the science. Any decisions that are being made around COVID and the return of sport must be driven by data, must be influenced by science rather than sentiment. It just can't be, we're going to drive infection up. People are going to die. No. Let's take a look at the science. What are the numbers on the ground? And here's the other thing as well, Barry. What we are saying, especially as far as football and rugby is concerned, is we're not asking for an immediate return to action. I think what people are saying, okay, those that want to return to football, allow the clubs to start training at the moment. We saw a gradual, Barry, roll out of training programs in the more advanced leagues in Europe and even in South Africa. So you start with your individual plans, you go to your small group plans, and eventually you come together as a club. The highest amount of people you're going to have at any training session of any club is possibly 40. If it's a really massive club, call it 50 people, Barry. Yet we're hearing that they're going to be allowing 50 people in social gatherings, okay? Where there's going to be more contact and people are going to be in closer proximity and there is perhaps more intimacy, which then poses the greater risk. Social gatherings where 50 people are allowed or 40 athletes who are training in an open field. Those are the questions that right now the authorities are not giving us answers for.
Alois, is it that we are starting off the wrong base, perhaps, whereby it's not a case of the National Sports Association and associations and indeed the SRC looking for ways in which those sports can return? Rather, they're asking the fundamental question, which is, can those sports return? Because the answer to can those sports return is probably no, because COVID is still around. But if we ask the question, how can those sports return? We then begin to find solutions as to how the new normal can then fit into getting football back, getting rugby back, and getting those sports playing. Perhaps we're working off the wrong base.
Bay, you came up with the right question. It's about the solution. You know, like Mike said, it's not about emotions. You know, we can't use emotions to make decisions in this kind of situations. You see, that's why they classify the sports as low risk, high risk. You know, people crammed in a Zuko bus, are at less risk of COVID infection than footballers that are playing without a mask, with high contact, you said it before, because these guys are wearing masks. They sanitize their hands. So the risk is not as high as that. So we need to take cognizance of that fact that we need to apply. You remember, South Africa came back, soccer came back at the height of COVID. England came back at the height of COVID. How did they do it? It's all about putting the protocols, safety measures to actually play. Any country can play football inside COVID. Like Chris said, we have got COVID, it's not going anywhere. But we can't use the case kuti vari kutamba bhora kumbare inga kumbare kuri kutambwa wani havasi kuita saka ngatitambe. A whole government or a whole SRC cannot use such a template kuti kutamba bhora kumfakose saka let's just play. Ngatishandire PSL, the SRC, ZiFM, let's sit together and say, how do we get our football back? What protocols do we need to put in place? Vasinga kwani say, how can we help them? How can we help ABC? Vasinga kwani say, because tuna kuti tiite ma protocols akati guys. Kuti game ritambwe pachaitwa chakati nechakati. So how do we go about it? So it's not about sentiment. It's all about how do we get about it? How do we go about it? It's not. Yes, like I said, South Africa and England started playing at the height of their COVID numbers, but they played because they put protocols in place to make sure that the players that are playing are safe. It might be 2,000 players in England, might be 5,000 players in South Africa. Those three can start a pandemic. So we need to...
Yeah, and the other thing that I'll add to those protocols is that, you know what, once you get your athletes tested, testing is going to be key to all of this. But yes, we've also got to put in place healthy and safety protocols that are realistic to the market that we have. You know, we can't take models out of Germany, out of England, which are multi-billion-dollar leagues, and think that we can institute the same protocols here in Zimbabwe, because we can't simply afford them. We've got to find something that works for us, a tailor-made solution. I mean, I was doing quick maths. Take, for example, our Premier Soccer League, okay? How many teams do we have? We got 18 teams. We got 18 teams, and if we work with a figure of 30 people or 40 people per club, it means that I think testing will be around 42,000, just one round of tests. If we're going to be testing twice a week, we're looking at about 80,000. If you consider that there are 34 match days and maybe 6 other weeks for cup competitions and mid-season break, the testing actually reaches $3.6 million. Zimbabwe football doesn't have that money.
3.6 million US dollars is not a paltry figure at all. Chris, very briefly, I mean, are we Are we being fair on the SRC, or are we just holding them to the standard that we expect? And let me elaborate that slightly, because everybody's now looking at the SRC as the big bad wolf that continues to say no, sport can't return. But surely a critical success factor, a key performance indicator for the SRC is that sport is being played in the nation of Zimbabwe. So surely it's within their interest that sport is played. And if sport is not being played, they must have a good reason for it. Well, what's your take on that?
They must have a good reason for it, but I fear the relationship between the SRC and some of the sporting codes, for example, ZiFM. I think the situation there is that of, I'm going to say, headmaster and student. I think that's the best way to kind of put it in terms of an analogy, where there is almost rules that are set in place by the SRC. Granted, that is what they're there to do. But also, we must reach a point where it's not just, for example, ZiFM making submissions to the SRC and the SRC declining them, and reach a point where these two bodies are actually working together to say, okay, this ZiFM, you're not doing this correctly, or whatever sporting code it is. We need you to present X, Y, Z, and we are going to help you to come up with that particular document or those particular protocols so that the sport is played. The point is not to simply govern, because what are you governing if there is no sport that is being played?
Yeah, Chris, I actually really do agree with you 100%. You see, I think the other problem that we have in the country is that our sport is not an industry. It doesn't bring in money. When you look at England, when you look at South Africa, the fact that they know that how sport is important in the country's economy, they quickly look for solutions to find a way to get it back on track. But because our sport, is recreation, no one's guys, we are not a priority. I think this is actually where we need to actually realize that we actually need to find ways to make our football a very big money spinning industry, so that authorities can actually realize that this is an industry that needs to get back on track. Because as it stands now, recreation, what's the hurry? So I think that's the other factor that's good because
and that's the problem as well, Alois, because sport is viewed as recreation.
Yes.
Even those who are involved in football also view it as recreation, just judging by the caliber of administrators we put in place. We put fans in charge of football institutions.
Yes.
We put people with passion in charge of our clubs. And yet, to be honest, in this present environment, we should be looking for people with the business acumen, people with the business sense to actually take football forward. The days of saying, this person is passionate about football and therefore they should be the president of FIFA or the president of ZiFM, those days are long gone. The days of saying this person anofarra bora saka anofarra kuita SG and must be the CEO of a club, those days are long gone. Put a businessman in charge to run what should be a business institution, and you will derive the business benefits thereof of a professional approach.
Case in point, when the announcement of the lifting of lockdown measures was done, the informal traders were addressed by name and by nature. They were given the rights to return to work by the head of state himself. Sport wasn't even mentioned, wasn't even a byword. And so consequently, I think sport needs to be regarded as an industry that contributes to the GDP. The other tragedy, guys, is that sport hasn't qualified how much it is worth and how much it contributes to the GDP. So there's a lot of work to be done. The work that stands in our faces right now is to get Zimbabwe playing again. Some sports are back. Swimming is back. Triathlon is back. Cricket is back. Even woodball is back. When will football be back? We'll give you a local sports news roundup next.
How is it, guys? Elvis Tibula Pomba Moyo, WPF.
This is the bomb.
All Africa heavyweight champion 2-time. You are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Your local sports news roundup starts with rugby, where the Zimbabwe Rugby Union, the ZRU, say that they are leaving nothing to chance in their quest to ensure the Sables will be part of the 2023 Rugby World Cup Jamboree when it rolls into life in France. The union have, through the Sables Committee, set up the Sables Rugby Network and launched the roadmap for France 2023. The ZRU and the Sables Trust launched the Sables 2023 campaign at a glamorous event at the Mashonaland Turf Club in Borrowdale. In volleyball news, Zimbabwe representatives of this year's rescheduled Africa Volleyball Club Championships, University of Zimbabwe Wolves, say they are running out of preparation time for the tournament, which begins next month. UZ Wolves won the slot at the Zone 6 games in Lilongwe, Malawi in 2019 and were supposed to have participated in the club championships last April before the COVID-19 lockdown. The tournament, which will be held in Tunisia, was rescheduled to begin on the 31st of March and will run until the 7th of April. Let's wrap it up with boxing news, where South Africa-based heavyweight boxer Elvis the Bulawayo Bomber Moyo is stepping up preparations for his March 26 non-title bout in Tanzania. Despite delays in getting a new passport, Moyo has less than 2 weeks to get a new passport for him to travel for the fight dubbed Rumble in Dar 2 against Romanian Bogdan Marius Dinu. The fight against Dinu will mark the end of a 2-year hiatus for the Bulawayo Bomber, whose previous scheduled fights were all cancelled at the 11th hour.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
It's Super Rugby Round 2 out in New Zealand, and an outstanding 3-try performance by Jonah Nareki. So the Highlanders come from behind to beat the Waikato Chiefs 39-23 in their Super Rugby clash in Hamilton this morning. The Chiefs led 20-11 with 30 minutes to go before the Highlanders found an extra gear and produced 3 tries in 5 minutes to Folau Fakatava, Shannon Frizzell and Nareki. Let's get the post-match thoughts of Highlanders co-captain Ash Dixon.
Yeah, 100%. Really proud of our effort. Thought we played better with 14 on the field there in the first half, and that first half our discipline was pretty poor, and we were playing in the wrong end of the park. But really proud of our second half effort, and I think we learned a lot from last week, and we moved forward as a team, which I'm pleased. But I think we fell into the trap of just being ill-disciplined. Gave away silly penalties like offsides, and that would just keep them down in our end, and we couldn't build any pressure because we didn't have the ball. But I think we came out of the sheds and got some good pointers and started the second half really well and just built from there.
Z.
A pretty impressive comeback, this one, Barry, by Otago. They lost on match day 1. They were trailing for long periods in this game, but bang, 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 and they got themselves the win they needed on match day 2.
Absolutely, and as you said, Nareki putting in a stellar performance for them, and it was on the back of that performance that they managed to get this win over the line. Now, it truly shows that the Highlanders have character, because to trail for such long periods in that game, and in truth, anyone watching that game would have thought that the Chiefs were going to almost coast and make it safe quite easily. But the Highlanders to charge back, to come from behind in that manner, I think is a testament to their character, and certainly will be proud of that achievement. It may just be the momentum they need to carry into the rest of the competition.
Definitely, they'll be happy about this win. They scored 5 tries to 2 over the Chiefs. But one area that will continue to concern them, Chris, is their discipline. Last week, we saw them get 2 yellow cards versus the Satyrs. And this week, again, it was no different. 2 yellow cards versus the Chiefs. This time, though, they managed to get a positive result.
They managed to get a positive result this time, but they do need to clean up in terms of their discipline, especially as the competition wears on and it becomes more and more of a grind. It becomes harder to get those wins. You are going to rue all of those yellow cards, so they need to get their discipline in check, especially right now at the beginning of the competition.
On the losing side, it was the Chiefs. They're captained by the All Black skipper, Sam Kane, who spoke after the game.
Yeah, look, I thought the first 20, 25 were really sharp, doing the simple things really well. Look, credit to the Highlanders, they stuck at it. I thought that runaway try was a real momentum shifter, and to be fair, we didn't quite manage to get that momentum back. The Highlanders were very clinical, and we let in some pretty soft tries. So, look, there's some good things to take away, that first 20, 25, but we've got to put that together for 80 if we're going to take this comp out.
Not the start the Chiefs wanted, Barry.
Not the start at all, and in truth, when you've got a bit of efficiency, a bit of reliability coming off the boot of Damian McKenzie, you want to then see it out. You want to be able to score with regularity, but also then get the result at the end of the day. It's sort of a kick it's a gut punch, isn't it? That you lead for so long, you've got a player who's in form, who's doing the job that they ought to do, but you still end up on the losing the sharp end of the result. And I think that Sam Cane is going to rally his troops as captain and sort of try and get those stakes up in being able to stay in games, not only stay in games, but also see games out, especially as the case with this one.
Well, they will need to do exactly that, because it's now a 10-match losing streak for the Chiefs. And has the instability upstairs, Chris, perhaps contributed to that in terms of this uncertain start to this season's Super Rugby competition? Because their head coach, Warren Gatland, is away. He's committed to the British and Irish Lions this year. And so they've got Clayton McMillan, who's standing in as coach. Has that perhaps seen a bit of instability at the top?
I think it definitely contributes, but if you take a look at probably the last Super Rugby Aotearoa season, if you take a look at this start that they've had again in this season, it's got to be a little bit more than that, but having that instability definitely contributes to them not being able to kick on, to see games through, to get these wins and not finish at the bottom of Super Rugby Aotearoa again.
Okay, let's take a look at tomorrow's action. It's a big one. It's the Crusaders taking on the Canes. It's Canterbury versus Wellington. The Crusaders boasting the talents of David Havili, Sevu Rees, Jack Goodyear, and the likes of Richie Mwanga. The Hurricanes, no slouches themselves. Jody Barrett. Where's Hoosen? I actually went to school and was in the same class as Wesley Hoosen way back then. I don't think he's playing rugby. Not at the age of 40. Peter Umaga Jensen, Ngani Laumape, Julian Savea, and of course the captain RD Savea. For me, the best rugby player in the world at the moment. That game is on tomorrow morning. Predictions, guys. When the Canes are good, they're good, but this is the Crusaders we're talking about. Which way do you call this one, Chris?
It's tricky, like you said, but I definitely bet on the Crusaders to win again, but not by a huge margin. I'm going to go Crusaders maybe by 5.
Crusaders by 5. Barry, a question of efficiency over flair?
Yeah, I think so. I think also it's going to be very tight in patches and periods, but I reckon that the last 20 minutes of this game are going to be critical. Whoever wins those last 20 minutes is going to win the game, and I predict that it's going to be the Crusaders.
Hi, this is Alexandra Maseko, and I'm the national basketball team captain, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in Las Vegas, where Israel Adesanya could make history when he faces Jan Blachowicz for the light heavyweight championship in the main event of UFC 259. Adesanya, who is undefeated in 20 fights, already boasts the middleweight title, and after putting down Paulo Costa in emphatic fashion in his last outing in September last year, appears to have no further credible threats in the division. Hence the step up to a weight category for a champion v champion clash. Should the undefeated Adesanya triumph, he will become the 4th man to be champion in 2 divisions simultaneously and 5th fighter overall after Conor McGregor at UFC 205. Daniel Cormier at UFC 226, Amanda Nunes at UFC 232, and Henry Cejudo at UFC 238. We'll head over to Atlanta, where team captains LeBron James and Kevin Durant assembled their superstar rosters for the NBA's blockbuster All-Star Game. Milwaukee Bucks forward Giannis Antetokounmpo was selected by James with the 1st overall pick, and joining him as starters are Steph Curry, Luka Doncic, Nikola Jokic, Nets guard Kyrie Irving was drafted by Durant with the second overall pick, and in addition to Irving, Durant selected Joel Embiid, Kawhi Leonard, Bradley Beal, and Jason Tatum as starters. And we'll touch down in Wellington, where Australia has given itself a chance of claiming a comeback T20 International Series win over New Zealand with a mammoth 50-run win in the fourth T20 International. Captain Aaron Finch set the table for the victory, slamming an unbeaten 79 off just 55 deliveries as Australia posted a score of 156 for 6 off their 20 overs. In response, New Zealand was held to its lowest score ever in T20 internationals, bowled out for 106 in 18.5 overs. The 5-match T20 international series between the two sides is now tied at 2-2.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference. The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport.
All right, let's start in England, where the big news this weekend is the Manchester Derby. We'll be talking about that momentarily, but let's wrap up the business of the past match day, which ended last night, where Thomas Tuchel says he is super happy with Chelsea's 1-0 Premier League victory at Liverpool, but warned the Blues can ill afford to sit back in the battle for a top 4 finish. Mason Mount scored the only goal of the game as the Blues consigned the champions to a 5th consecutive defeat at Anfield for the first time in their history. Let's hear from Thomas Tuchel.
Super happy. I'm super happy. If I'm very, very honest, I still have a bit regrets about the draw in Southampton, where I was not happy that we dropped the 2 points and the way how we dropped them. But in general, I'm absolutely happy. I feel from the first day like a part of that club, and I feel involved in the team, and it's a pleasure to coach this team from the first minute, because you can feel the energy, you can feel the attitude to all the things that are needed.
It's a fantastic result for Chelsea, Bunj, but I think all of us in the world of football are pleasantly surprised with the manner in which Thomas Tuchel has not only turned the fortunes of Chelsea around, but also, in particular, the fortunes of their defense, because they are almost impenetrable at the moment.
Yeah, I think what is surprising is actually their defense. You know, when you look at the results, you know, sometimes when a new coach arrives, you know, you look at a good team. Remember, we spoke about it, that, you know what, Chelsea, they bought well. They've got actually a good squad. Only that Lampard was not finding the formula to actually get these guys to get going and get results. But what is now surprising really for me is actually the solidity of the defense. You know, since he arrived, they've only conceded 1 goal. And that actually shows that he is doing tactically, he is doing something. This is credit to the coach. But now, when you look at the situation, we knew that Chelsea have got good players. They've got a very nice squad of players that they're actually capable of. Actually, even winning the league is not a surprise. If they do, they were just not getting the results, probably because of the shortcomings of Frank Lampard. But here comes Tuchel. They are now doing well. They are winning matches, and they actually poised for a top 4 finish. It's not going to be easy, like he said, because there are so many teams vying for that top 4, those top 4 positions. But they look solid. They look like they are going to do it. So well done to him. But like we said, surprisingly, the defense, tactically, I think they're doing something right, that they're actually managing to actually keep teams out. And congratulations as well for their record at Anfield. You know, it was a long time coming in. Well done to Tuchel. He came up with that.
And the record books keep getting troubled, because Liverpool have become the first English top flight reigning champions to lose 5 consecutive home league games. So not a good time for the Reds of Anfield and the defending champions of England. Other results last night, Tottenham winning the London Derby, mini London Derby with Fulham 1-0, and then Everton getting a good away victory at West Brom 1-0. It ended in favour of Everton. The weekend fixtures: Burnley takes on Arsenal. Sheffield host Southampton. Aston Villa versus Wolves. Brighton versus Leicester. West Bromwich Albion versus Newcastle. It's Liverpool versus Fulham. And Tottenham Hotspur hosting Crystal Palace in another London derby. And then the big one is Manchester City versus Manchester United. Now, City defender João Cancelo says stopping Manchester United's counter-attacks will be key to Manchester City's chances of winning this weekend's derby. City are on a run of 21 wins in all competitions and can break their club record unbeaten run by avoiding defeat against United on Sunday. He's absolutely right, isn't he, Michael? Because apart from the counter-attack, you got to say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't have much in terms of squeezing and strangling teams, but that counter-attack is brutal.
Absolutely, Barry. I think he's pinpointed what Man City is going to be facing. They're going to face a United side that's very structured, that's going to sit deep and then try to hit City on the break. And they're very, very dangerous when they're playing on the counter-attack. Manchester United is their greatest strength, especially with the likes of Marcus Rashford, the pace that he's got. And then in broken play as well, Bruno Fernandes is very effective. He's able to pick out a pass. So City know that they have to control the game and they also have to defend very well. Manchester United's problems have been when they face sides that sit deep, sides that are very defensive. They don't have the guile and the creativity to actually break those sides down. But when they are playing against teams that attack them, then sometimes the space is created for the attackers to try and capitalize. So it will be contrasting styles at the Etihad on Sunday, and it will come down to whose methods, whose tactics are going to be effective over 90 minutes.
Whose tactics are going to be effective over 90 minutes, Chris?
That's a hard question, especially because Manchester United it's a surprise team every single time. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, when it comes to his tactics, preparing for particular games, he almost always has an unexpected game plan, and sometimes it does work. But I think Manchester City is on a roll. They're playing brilliant football. So in terms of, head over heart, I'm going to say that the likelihood is Pep Guardiola tactically can win this match.
Head over heart. Well, let's hear from a former Manchester United player, Viv Anderson, who says the Manchester derby will galvanise Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's side after a run of only 2 wins from their last 8 Premier League games.
I think it's a fight for to be in the Champions League positions. I think they've got some important games coming up. So, they've got Milan in the UEFA Cup. They've got lots of games coming up thick and fast. I think Ollie said something like three a week now. 3 games every 3 days, a game every 3 days, sorry. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting time for Manchester United. But I think, with this game coming up on Sunday, it always galvanises people, playing against the local rivals on their own park, trying to stop their run. It's an incentive for everybody connected with Man United.
It's a shocking record for a United side that was going great guns, Alois, and you got to say that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has got to turn it around, and I suspect he's going to try and turn it around by keeping it tight. Do you agree?
Yeah, I think that's what he needs to do. Even a draw against Manchester City, I think is actually a very good result for him. Never mind that 2 wins out of 8, he can go 2 wins out of 9. Is still good enough because this is Manchester City we are talking about, guys. He needs to avoid defeat, against Man City in the derby. But like you said, he has to improve. That record needs to be improved because this is Manchester United we are talking about, and that record doesn't look good when you just look at the numbers only without looking at the opposition. So I think he needs to do something. But I think avoiding defeat against Manchester City, I think we can still be accepted by Manchester United fans.
Give me a scoreline, Alois.
I'll go with the heart here. I think this is the time that Manchester City are going to lose their winning streak. 2-2.
2-2. All right, Chris?
I'm going to go a little bit more cautious than Alois. I'm going to go 2-1 to Manchester City.
2-1 to City. Mikey?
3-1 Man City.
3-1 to Manchester City. I'm not going to argue with you. It's a Manchester derby in England. Going to be a good one.
The big game in Spain this weekend is in the city of Madrid. It's derby time. But before we get there, let me give you the rest of your La Liga fixtures. It's Valencia who are staring the relegation zone in the face. They entertain Villarreal at La Mestalla. Real Valladolid versus Getafe. Sevilla will visit Elche. Eibar is away at Cadiz. Osasuna entertain Barcelona. Huesca versus Celta Vigo. Real Sociedad welcome Levante at the Anoeta, and then it's San Mamés Athletic Club of Bilbao who entertain Granada. But the big game undoubtedly is in the capital, and Atletico can move 8 points clear of Real Madrid if they beat their city rivals. Atletico sit 5 points clear of Real and Barcelona with a game in hand over both, making defeat for Zinedine Zidane's side this weekend almost unthinkable if they want to stay in the title race. Now let's hear the thoughts of football pundit Alejandro Moreno, who says that Real will struggle without Karim Benzema for this clash.
You look around and you look back in the time that Benzema has been absent, and where have the goals been coming from? It's been Rafael Varane against Huesca, it's been Casemiro against Valladolid, it's Mendy against Atalanta, but you do not have Karim Benzema, and you don't have that focal point. Most of all, you don't have that quality of a guy that can actually score an important goal when it matters. You cannot be relying on Casemiro to be your goal scorer. You cannot be relying on Varane to be your goal scorer. It has to come from some of your more talented attacking players. But who are those guys and where are those guys? Well, your most talented attacking player is sitting comfortably in the stands injured, and that is an absence that you cannot make up because Mariano is not good enough to do so, because Hugo Duro is not good enough to do so, and because the other guys cannot be relied upon to do that because it's not their job.
Barry, they already trail Atletico Madrid, and Real Madrid have been blighted by injuries. Karim Benzema is a major doubt. His backup Mariano Diaz is out. Luka Jovic has returned to Eintracht Frankfurt. So they don't have a number 9, and they could actually be forced to line up without a recognizable striker.
Absolutely, and Zinedine Zidane is not one in favor of false 9, as it were. He doesn't play that way. He loves to play with an arrowhead, and that's usually the Benz. And without him, you got to think to yourself, his only option, as you quite rightly point out, is a front 3, possibly Isco, Vinicius, and Rodrigo or Marco Asensio, depending on which he wants to go. Asensio is quite lucky in terms of getting goals. He gets into good positions, so likelihood he will go with Marco Asensio. But do they have the firepower when when their backs are against the wall and they just need somebody to pull a rabbit out of the hat, which Benzema usually does? Of those 3, no.
Chris, you take a look at this game. Atletico Madrid will need very little in the way of motivation because Diego Simeone surely will be telling his side, beat Real Madrid and you've got one hand on the trophy.
Absolutely. They're not going to need much motivation at all. And I think because of, first of all, this is a derby. And secondly, taking a look at their run of results, their last 5 games, it's been a patchy run of results. But if they're going to beat Atletico Madrid, if they're going to move a step closer to winning the league, this is an absolute must win. And it's possibly the time that they need to beat Real Madrid when they're particularly weak from what you and Barry spoke about in terms of those injury concerns.
Well, one side who'll be watching this game very closely, Alois, is Barcelona, who, should they win, will benefit whatever the result in Madrid.
Yeah, of course, Barcelona are looking at this result. They don't care who takes the points because they want to gain ground on either of the two. But probably they would think that it's better maybe if they really have ambitions to actually win the championship. They would love Real Madrid to actually win this one so that they can actually close the gap between themselves and Atletico Madrid as well. So it's going to be interesting. This is actually why sometimes La Liga, when it comes to those 3, when they are actually fighting for position, just those 3, they always compete. When they do, it's actually quite exciting. So this is one of the matches that is very exciting, that is actually very important for the three teams vying for the championship.
Interesting scenario there where Barca could be supporting Real Madrid. Barry, call this one for us, will you?
I reckon it's going to be Atletico Madrid that will win 2-1.
Let's give you a preview of Germany, where Borussia Dortmund and Bayern Munich will lock horns in this latest edition of Der Klassiker this weekend. With Dortmund fighting for a place in the top 4 and Bayern locked in the title battle, both teams will be determined to get 3 points in this highly awaited matchup. German football pundit Derek Ray says Erling Haaland will be a key asset for Dortmund in Der Klassiker.
I think that the personality of Erling also making what a German calls a phenomenon. That's the word they use on him. And I think that you have the whole package with that strongness, that goal. He wants to score goals. He's desperate to score goals. But a very good observation of you. Very, very great attitude. And also, of course, a great guy and a great goal scorer.
Alois, it's a derby and we won't read too much into forms, but both of these teams needing a win here. Borussia Dortmund more than Bayern Munich.
Of course, Chris, Borussia Dortmund, they just need to redeem themselves. We know that they are not going to win the league, when you look at the current position, but it's actually in terms of actually breaking rights. Those are the top dogs in German football. They need that, and obviously they need that to actually motivate themselves to actually get better and move into. They need a top 4 finish. Obviously, right now they're not going to win the league, but they need the top 4 finish and the breaking rights as well. They are one of the top teams. But for Bayern Munich, obviously they just want to get one better and obviously push their efforts to actually win the Bundesliga. Like for me, I think they are the best team in Germany. They are going to win the Bundesliga, but they just want to consolidate their position as the best team in Germany. By beating Borussia Dortmund is a huge statement. So for me, I think they'll be going for that statement. While Borussia Dortmund, they're just looking for points to actually get into the top 4 and for breaking rights as well.
Mike, do you agree with Alois that a win for Bayern Munich over a struggling Borussia Dortmund, if I can call them that, is this necessarily as emphatic a win? This is a derby, but is it as emphatic a win considering Borussia Dortmund's most recent form?
No. I think I'm more inclined to look at the recent matches between the two teams. And the last 2 matches they've played have been 3-2 wins for Bayern Munich over Borussia Dortmund. And in those games, actually, Borussia Dortmund has dominated play. They just haven't had the ruthlessness and the efficiency that you find Bayern Munich has got with the likes of Lewandowski, with the likes of Gnabry and Thomas Muller. And that's why I think Derek Ray is talking about the importance of Erling Haaland in this match. If Erling Haaland can take his chances, if he can be as ruthless as Lewandowski, then Borussia Dortmund will give themselves a good chance of upsetting Bayern Munich. But this game is in Munich, and traditionally Borussia Dortmund don't do well at the Allianz Arena. So I still favor Bayern Munich to get the job done in this game. But it'll be a closely fought affair.
A closely fought affair. Alois, quick prediction from you?
Now I see Borussia Dortmund losing this one 2-1 to Bayern Munich.
The rest of your Bundesliga fixtures: Schalke 04 takes on Mainz, Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Bayer Leverkusen, Eintracht Frankfurt takes on Stuttgart, Hertha Berlin versus Augsburg, Freiburg will be taking on RB Leipzig, Hoffenheim against Wolfsburg, Cologne versus Werder Bremen, Arminia Bielefeld versus Union Berlin, and the big one, the derby, Bayern Munich versus Borussia Dortmund.
All right, we're out of time. We need to wrap it up. So we'll wrap it up with Italy, where your fixtures look like this. Roma will take on Genoa. Hellas Verona entertain AC Milan, while Napoli will host Bologna. Juventus will be taking on Lazio. Those are your key fixtures out of Serie A. On the continent, CAF Champions League fixtures this weekend. Group A, Al Ahly versus AS Vito Club. Al Merrick take on Simba Sports Club. In Group B, it's Wydad Casablanca versus Horoya, and Kaizer Chiefs entertaining Petro Atletico. Group C, TP Mazembe versus Mamelodi Sundowns. Belouizdad versus Al Hilal. While in Group D, it's Esperance who entertain Zamalek, and Mouloudia Alger take on Tungef. That's all we got time for. We'll be back on Monday for our review show. Don't miss it. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manande, out.